All for coming out this afternoon. I'm really excited about our presentation today. We're going to have Sir Bob Malkovich come up and have opening prayer, and then I will introduce our speaker.
It's great to be here. It's good to see you all. It was a while since I was here in this church. But, today we just want to thank the Hesperia Church that brought the great speaker. I know she says nervous, don't worry about it. We're going to pray and God's going to give us strength. So let's bow our hands. Lord, merciful God, in the name of Jesus, thank you for giving us Sabbath, day of the rest, day that we can maybe wrestle some things like depression and anxiety and different things. Lord, but you have your own people here who can help us understand better, and we can live better tomorrow. Sometimes, Lord, we think we can figure out everything on our own, but I guess we can. We need help, and every single one of us has some different gifts. So thank you for Sister Erin, and have a great gift to help us understand better when it comes to depression and anxiety. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you so much, Bob. That was awesome. Okay. I am so excited about Erin being here today, and a lot of our friends from Lucerne Valley. Thank you guys for coming and supporting Family Life Forum, and especially supporting Erin today. Erin is a dear friend. I met her, maybe 3 years back? And Larry and I go to a wonderful, what I want to call it, home church at Bill, Jan, Debbie, and Linda's house. And Bob and Mariana come, and Erin comes, and a bunch of other people. So we're so glad that they could come today and be with us. Thank you for being here. So, Erin, this is a special treat for us today. I asked Erin if she would be willing to give a presentation, and it came to my mind that, we are living in a society where there's a lot of depression, fear, and anxiety going around right now, just because of what's going on in the world, in the United States, in our neighborhoods, and just all around. And each day we face our own issues. So it's good to learn what to do when we do face issues like that, So let me tell you a little bit about Erin. Erin brings nearly 3 decades of counseling experience with substance abuse and expanding into mental health. She holds degrees from San Antonio College in alcohol and drug studies and a bachelor's in psychology from San Bernardino State. Erin wanted to help a wider range of mental health problems than just substance abuse, so she went on to complete a master's in clinical psychology at Chapman University. Then she became a licensed mental health clinician, which led her to establish a private practice in 2015. So presently, she maintains her private practice and also works for Lutheran Social Services. It's a Medi-Cal mental health provider with offices throughout Southern California. She incorporates techniques and modalities such as cognitive behavioral therapy, guided meditation, trauma-based therapy, and she could tell us what EMDR, because I didn't look it up. So if you could tell us about that, and equine-assisted psychotherapy and other methods. And she does have horses, or a horse, how many?
At the moment,
6.
6.
2 from Big Bear, and the others are yours, right? Woo, that's awesome. So Erin will address coping strategies for depression, fear, and anxiety. And these are common challenges that we all face in today's rapidly changing world. At the end, we will have time for Q&A, and we really appreciate you all coming out today. God bless, and let's get started. I won't take your notes, though, I almost did.
Hi, everybody. You know, I was thinking God has such a sense of humor because I was trying to get ready for this, and then all the fires came, and of course the talk is about depression, anxiety, and stress, right? So some friends called and said, can you come rescue our horses up in Big Bear? So I did, and I've never driven up the mountain or down with a horse trailer and not with horses in it before. So I thought, well, all these years I wanted to see what that was like, so I did. And going down in first gear, you know, with everybody a mile behind you is, it's an experience. So anyway, so I was just wondering if any of you had anything going on from the fires or any stress from anything at the moment. Anybody? One person. Oh, okay. So you've been up in the fire lately? Oh, good for you. Okay. All right. And the rest of you are just calm, cool, and collected, no problems whatsoever. Right. So, you know, sometimes we use this word called scattered to talk about how we're feeling, especially when we're kind of anxious or nervous. And I just wonder if anybody's ever used that word to talk about themselves before. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I wanted to try a little something here, and you know, usually if you think about it, we talk about having different parts. Like I've got a part at work, and I've got a part at home, and part of me is maybe making dinner or thinking about what I'm going to get at the store, or you know, we have these parts, and so. So I was just going to invite you guys to close your eyes for just a moment. So close your eyes and look and see how many parts are all over the place. And when you come up with a number, just hold that number in your mind. And then you can open your eyes. So what's some of the numbers you guys came up with? Number of scattered parts that you've got scattered around. What was the number of parts that you came up with? 4? Okay. 5? Okay. Anybody else?
6.
Okay. A few? 1? Okay, so we're going to do a little exercise real quick, and this kind of helps to center you, because sometimes, hello? Sometimes when you're feeling that way, it helps to bring yourself together, if you will. So suppose you had a dog whistle that only your parts could hear. And so if you blew it, they would all hear wherever they are, and you're going to bring them back, okay? So on the count of 3, we're going to imagine blowing a dog whistle and bringing all our parts back in. So ready? We're just going to take a breath in when we do that. 1, 2, 3. You're blowing your imaginary dog whistle. All your parts are coming back in. Take a deep breath in. And bring everything back together again. Okay? And let yourself know that all of you is welcome. So all of you is welcome. Because sometimes we like certain parts of ourselves, but not other parts. So, so just for right now, tell all your parts that all of you is welcome here. And this is being collected instead of scattered, okay? So, so today we're going to talk about some different things. And when we're kind of back together again, then we can better stay in the present moment. And has anybody ever heard of mindfulness? Anybody heard that term? Okay. Does anybody have an understanding of what that means? Yeah, go ahead.
Being aware of your thinking and your actions at present.
Right.
Right now.
Right. And Just for a little example, anxiety tends to live in the future. So we worry about things that are in the future. We're thinking about, oh my gosh, what am I going to do about this? How am I going to get out of the fire? What am I going to do when so-and-so gets elected? And what about that? And oh gosh, what's it going to be like after that? So that's the future. Yeah. So let's call this chair future. And then depression tends to live in the past. So, oh, why didn't I do that thing? And why did I have that fight with that person? And I wish I had done such and such years ago. And why didn't I take that opportunity? And now, oh, I'm depressed. So, people talk about being so tired and so stressed out and so sad. And, well, if I'm walking around with all this anxiety all the time, this future anxiety, I'm so worried about everything. I can't understand why I'm tired, though. I really can't. And then I've got everything I'm worried about from the past, and I'm so depressed about everything I did. But I don't know. Why are you telling me that I'm tired? I can't really understand what's making me tired. I don't get it. But if we set down the past and we set down the future and we were actually in the present moment, whoo, that feels so much better, But we're not really taught in this Western society how to stay in the moment. We're actually taught worry about the future and feel bad about the past. So we have to learn to bring ourselves together like we just did in that little experiment. And mindfulness, actually, and this lady said it well, is about paying attention to what's actually happening right in front of us. So just to give an example, if we're washing the dishes, if we were smelling the soap and feeling how clean the dish was and feeling the warm water and just enjoying the experience of washing them and getting them clean and putting them away, that would be an example of being in the moment. When you take a walk, and you're smelling the air and you're looking at the trees and you're hearing the birds and you're really being in the present moment, it feels good to be in the present moment. It feels centered. So the problem with us is we're always on a screen, right? Or we're talking to somebody and we've got 10,000 things going on and we're rarely in the present moment. And a lot of our stress and anxiety comes from that. Who's got a dog here? How many dog lovers? Okay, so your dog is your best teacher about being in the present moment, or a baby, or any other, most animals just stay in the present moment. And I love dogs. They're just always happy to see you no matter what. No matter what. They might have had a bad day. I don't know what kind of day my dogs have when I haven't been at home. But they're always drop everything and they're totally happy to see me and, wagging and everything, And isn't it interesting that God and dog are the same word spelled backwards? I always have wondered about that. One of my favorite verses is, "Be still and know that I am God." And maybe you've heard of doing a meditation with that, where be still and know that I am, and be still and know, be still, and just be. And taking those words and just going, dropping one off like that until you're just feeling very calm. So, there's a lot of things we can do to help with depression and anxiety, and I just wanted to try to give some coping skills about that. One of them, of course, is prayer. We can learn to give our problems to God, and that's not as easy as it sounds. I'm sure everybody here does that as much as possible. But that's what we're asked to do. We're asked to do what we can do and then cast our care. And how many of us really do that on a regular basis? I mean, after we've done what we can do, the rest is up to God if He chooses to. So, I mean, as far as I look at it, I do as far as I can mentally and physically, but there's certain things I can't figure out at all. And we usually get much better results if we leave it up to God and let Him figure out all those details that we can't possibly figure out. I want to talk about breathing for a minute, because I don't know if your grandma said take a walk around the block and take 10 deep breaths, but mine certainly did. And the fact is that when we're stressed, have any of you kind of go, oh my God, we start breathing like that if we're really upset, and then guess what? No oxygen goes to the brain. And so what happens then? Now we really can't think. Now we're really even more upset. Now we're really yelling at somebody, or we're doing something that we shouldn't be doing. So the first thing when we're stressed is we should really stop and think about taking some long, slow, deep breaths. And has anybody ever seen a little kid breathe? They breathe with their whole belly, just in and out like that. And so what we want to do is get that breath way down into the belly and then up into the chest after that. And if you practice doing that more and more, you'll get more and more air into your system, more oxygen, and you'll feel better and you'll feel good. And oxygen is something that we really need in order to calm down with. So I really want to encourage all of you to learn how to breathe deeper and take time to really take some long, deep, slowed breaths, because it will really help you. Anybody get angry here? What kind of things do you guys do for your anger? Anybody?
For your anger,
Yeah. What do you do with your anger?
I've been practicing deep breathing.
Oh.
Just notice my body.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Anybody else have a solution for their anger?
Just throw it away.
Just throw it away. Wow, you must be a spiritual genius. Yes.
I don't eat and I overwork.
Okay. You don't eat and you overwork. Well, that sounds really healthy. Not. I just want to talk about resentment for a minute, because resentment just means recent anger. Anybody have a, yeah?
Resentment is like reliving it.
Yes.
And I get angry or really family issue, I just relive it over and over and over. And I told myself that's not intelligent, but that is the reaction. You know what I mean? I don't know if you were going to speak on this.
Yes.
Maybe you do have a solution to that.
I don't think your mic is on. Yeah.
Testing.
Ask him to repeat that, because there's some folks that didn't hear what he said.
Yes, I was saying that the issue is reliving. Resentment is really reliving. And as long as you're resentful, you're reliving it over and over and over and over. And I think that's a fundamental problem. I don't know if that's the fundamental problem, but that's a big crux of the problem. Reliving over and over, and how to get out of that box.
Right.
Into, you got to reprogram your mind, because what you're reliving that you're resentful for is a big issue. In this case, it's finances, family finances. But anyway, the consequences stay with you. So it's really an issue of reprogramming, and I'm sure you're going to get into it.
Okay. A lot of times we get into resentment over people. Anybody? Yeah. Oh, okay. Difficult people in our lives. And so one of the things, I have a difficult person in my life, and one thing I want you to notice is this a single time or is it a pattern? That's an important question to ask, because if it's a pattern with this difficult person, it's probably never going to change. And that's something that we have to recognize, because if it's never going to change with somebody else, why get that upset every single time? Because you know what's going to happen. This person in my life gets angry at me about every 6 months and then won't talk to me for a long time. And now I just know it's coming. You know, it's not a surprise anymore. And so one of the things I've learned to do, well, we all know the importance of 3 days. 3 days is a very, very important, very holy amount of time. And if you're very upset and you want to say something to somebody, you might want to consider waiting 3 days, because whatever I was going to say on that first day is way over here, and whatever I was going to say on the next day is maybe over here, because maybe I feel sorry for them or something. And by the third day, I'm somewhere in the middle, making more sense. So taking some time, even if it's a briefer amount of time, even if you just need to say, you know what, I'm going to go take a walk, and then I'll come back and we'll have that talk then. Something else I use in my practice, if somebody is particularly upsetting, or I teach people to do this, is you can go in the bathroom and let's say here's the toilet, and this is just a little exercise to tell yourself that you're just taking all of this off. And so you just brush it off and put it in the toilet bowl. And you close the lid and you flush the toilet and let it go. It's kind of like, you can do that with a bath, but just, it reinforces to yourself that I'm not going to take this on. I'm going to let go of it for a while. I'm going to go do something else. And like with the financial problems, we can't always figure something out right that minute. And the more we think about it, it's like, if you ever had an electrical problem and you're like trying to force the thing in and you're trying to do this or that and it's just not going to go, but then you go away for a while and you come back and it slips right in. So that happens with all kinds of different things, especially when we add prayer to that. And we ask people to, we ask ourselves, we ask God to help us with that problem. So another thing that helps with anger is to exercise. I don't know if anybody has a regular routine or even walking, but taking that anger out at the gym, if anybody here ever lifts weights, boy, that's a great way to get the anger out. You know, so you can get a lot more, lift a lot heavier weight when you're really angry than when you're not. You make a lot of progress at the gym. So the other advantage to exercising is that you're usually worn out by the end of that period, and most of the anger is siphoned off, and you're either calmer or you're tired, and either way, if you can just make it to bed that night, you're probably going to feel different in the morning, you know. So that's another thing. But we all know that anger is not good for our bodies and not good for our systems, and so finding some ways to release that anger is really important. And it kind of goes with the thinking, you know. It really is true that we have a negative thought, which produces a negative feeling and a negative behavior. And it's like being in a washing machine. You know, we go around and around and around and around, and we don't solve anything. So if you can take an action step of some kind towards, even if you're mad at a person, you can write a letter and not necessarily send it, but you're getting it out of you and onto the paper. And you might want to send it in a different way. You might want to burn it or bury it or do something else if you don't really want those words to go to that person directly. But getting it out of you. And writing is another really important thing, because when we talk, it's more of a cerebral. It's more in our head when we're talking with somebody. But when we go to write, it goes really deep. It goes to the subconscious, and a lot of other things come out. So I want to tell you about a method I've used a lot. A woman, didn't write her name down and now I won't think of it, does a method called morning pages, and it's in the book Artist's Way, and I'll think of it in a minute. Yeah. Anyway, I'll tell you how it works. So you have a notebook, like a 8.5 by 11 like this, and you're going to write in the morning for 3 pages, which is not easy to do, by the way. And this is not good writing. This is a stream of consciousness. So this might be, I really don't want to be doing this. Why did that lady at that stupid podium tell me to write like this? I don't like writing. I don't want to be here right now. I'd rather be back in bed. Blah, 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 blah. And so what happens to me is for about 2 pages, it's stuff like that. And then when I get to the 3rd page, I get intervened upon, and some really beautiful stuff comes in, and things are either shown to me, or I find out something else, or I just feel like I'm cleaned out. Have you ever been to Europe and turned on a tap, an old tap, and out comes rusty water? Okay, so, and then you have to let it go for a while. Yeah, and you have to let it go for a while until it's clear. That's kind of what this writing is like. When you write for a while in that method where you're just a stream of consciousness, then you get the junk out, and then you come to a place of clarity and you feel so much better. So I highly recommend that method, and hopefully I'll think of her name by the end of this, but it's The Artist's Way. It's a very famous book. You can find it at used bookstores and all kinds of places. Did you have your hand up?
Yes, I think her name is Julia Cameron.
Yes, Julia Cameron, thank you very much. So, another thing I wanted to say about difficult people is that sometimes we go on with reasons and excuses, telling them one thing or another, because they're sort of invading our lives. I don't know if you have anybody like that. Or they might be trying to get you to do something, and that's why you're irritated. And I learned this phrase a long time ago, and it's called, that just doesn't work for me. And then no explanation at all. Because those kinds of difficult people, sometimes if you give them reasons and excuses, then that gives them all the ammo they need to go, well, okay, but, I have this solution for that, or I can do this thing, or, I have blah, 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 and that's not what you want with a difficult person. So I also love what Dr. Laura Schlesinger said, and she says, with difficult people, minimize contact. That's one of my favorite ones. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say about difficult people. And let's talk about yeah, go ahead. Take the.
I'll play a retard, so I won't make sure they won't take effect on me.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's gonna just wreck my nerves.
Will you play stupid? Is that what
Yeah,
you're saying?
like
Okay,
I'm not
well, that's
taking my
interesting.
part.
That's an interesting approach. He just said, I play stupid for somebody that's really bothering me, and so I guess you could also play deaf or something like that. But so let's talk about negative thoughts going around in that washing machine for a minute. Okay, anybody have that happen to them where they just think the same thought over and over again, and it just drives you crazy? Okay. So sometimes you literally can't get it to stop, and so I want to talk about a couple things you can do. One thing you can do is substitute what's going on up here with going to a movie, putting a tape in, listening to a speaker, for instance, because you're listening to this when you're doing that. You're listening to your own head, and you already know that's not going to go anywhere. So I really like Joyce Meyer. She's a preacher on the TV, and she's helped me a lot over the years. But years ago, I was going through something really bad, and I couldn't stop thinking about something, and my friend gave me, it was cassette tapes way back then, here, take that and listen to this on the way home. And I realized how important it is to be listening to somebody else, So, you know, we're so fortunate now to have podcasts and all sorts of other things that we can shut this off and listen to somebody else that's really positive. And if you've never read or listened to the book, The Power of Positive Thinking, that is an excellent, wonderful book. I even brought it with me, so I've got the author over here. But do you know the author? Do you know the author? Yeah, Norman Vincent Peale, thank you. It is such a great book, and it's really good to listen to it or read it every now and then because it's full of scriptures, it's full of great ideas, and it really can help set you in a positive way. Dale Carnegie. Okay, Dale Carnegie. So, you know, make a cause for wanting to have better thoughts. If you just allow them to do this, then you know you have a lot of more power than you realize. You can change that. You can ask God to take those thoughts from you. And I've got Larry over here. So, Larry, what's the scripture about turning over the thoughts to Christ and Him taking command of them? I thought I wrote it down, but well, anyway, having your thoughts come under the obedience of Christ, that one. So, anyway, I think I wrote it in here somewhere. I'll come across it, but you know, here's another one that I really love is let not your heart be troubled, and neither let it be afraid. And to me, that one sounds like a command. And so to me, that sounds like we've got control over whether we're going to allow ourselves to get really upset or not. And here's what happens. You know, sometimes, have you ever had this experience? You go out, you've got a problem, but then you go to dinner with somebody and you forget all about it, right? And then they leave and you're going, where's that problem that, oh yeah, that's what we do, right? We actually look for the problem. My problem's gone at the moment, but I'm going to find that bone and go, "Rah." So we take those back sometimes. And we have power over whether we're going to do that or not. And when we take a negative thought like that and start feeding into it, have you ever seen a snowball, you know, get bigger and bigger and bigger and roll down the hill? That's what happens. We can start the day off with a good thought, which takes momentum, or we can start the day off with a negative thought, which also takes momentum. And then all of a sudden we're dropping the coffee cup and spilling this and having that happen and, oh my gosh, what a day I had, you wouldn't believe it. So we have a lot of control over where that kind of thing goes. We got to catch those negative thoughts when we see them starting and give them to God and let them go. And then I want to talk to all of you about some of you are really on the beam with your life and have done things that you really care about, and some of you might still be. Yes, go ahead.
Well, I thought I'd shared something that kind of linked the two things he talked about, just the one previously about the snowball and the one earlier where you're talking about if something's bothering you, write it down. I've always been hesitant to write things down, and a lot of my friends are always spurring me to write things. And see, one of the things that happened that really was eye-opening to me is I was at a friend's house, and one of my friends was singing a particularly sappy song that I just thought the lyrics were awful. And for some reason, I got so angry at that, not at him, but at that sappy song and the person that created it, that I just started synthesizing my own lyrics to the same melody. And all of a sudden, you know, the whole new song appeared to me, the style of music and everything. I couldn't wait to get home, and I wrote it down, and I thought it was really funny. I thought it was ironic. It's something super dark. It's not like I would do. So as soon as I saw that, I said, wow, this is really funny. It's really ironic. So I couldn't wait to go to my friend and share it with him. And then, you know, after I shared with him, I reread it and I said, oh my gosh, this isn't funny at all. This is really dark. and it could really hurt somebody.
Right.
And I realized that what I was doing was I was challenging a demon. I was channeling a demon. And basically, by channeling a demon, I was putting it down on paper, and the demon made me feel like it was funny, so I could share it with a bunch of people, so that dark message could get infused in there. So I agree with you and I disagree with you, because sometimes when I'm angry and I channel it in art or music or writing, sometimes the stuff I get is not stuff that I want other people to see or to affect other people or to affect me. Because I might look at it and say, oh, this is really cool, this is really dark, this is really edgy. I'd like to share it with someone, and you share it with somebody, and then you pass the buck, so to speak, and you get the demon inside them. So, they're kind of two sides of the coin, because for me sometimes I feel like writing a song or writing a prose is starting the snowball rolling. And
Okay.
I want the snowball to stop with me. I don't want it to go to anyone else. So that's my 5
I
cents.
think in this instance, I was talking about getting it out, and you can burn it. You can get rid of it, after that. But, well, okay. Well, for the purposes of the exercise I was talking about, it was basically a private dumping of the head out, not really meant for anybody's eyes but yours. But I hear you. And that sounds kind of scary. So, anyway, so go ahead. Did you find it?
Well, I don't know if this is what you had in mind, but two texts came to mind. Philippians 2:5, let this mind be in you that's in Christ. And Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Those are both really good. It wasn't the one I was thinking of.
2 Peter 5:7, casting all your cares upon him because he cares for you.
This was particularly about giving thoughts to him, capturing the thoughts. Obedience of Christ. That's the one. That's the one I was looking for. Yep.
One right here, 2 Corinthians 10:5.
About writing things down, I don't think that's always a good idea. I had a friend who passed away probably about 5 months ago, and with her second child, she was going through postpartum depression, and she wrote everything down. She said, she'd say things like, I wish I never had this child, I wish it had died before it was born, all these different things like that, and it was her daughter. Well, her daughter is now like 32, and she found all of that writing that her mother had written about her birth and all of this stuff, and it really, really caused a lot of grief and pain to this girl. So I don't know about it.
Well, I'm sure that would have been terrible. I would use discernment about what I would keep. I'm talking about getting it out of you, and then if it's that dark, burn it, get rid of it, whatever. I'm just talking about a method to get it out of you, out of your mind, off of you for the time being. But no, I would never keep something like that somebody could find. Absolutely, that's a good point. Thank you for bringing it up. Go ahead.
2 Corinthians 10:5, bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ.
That's it. That's the one I thought I had and didn't. Thank you.
2 Corinthians 10:5, bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ.
Right. So then I wanted to say that, a lot of you have found your life's purpose, or feel that you have, or you're on that beam, and I know a lot of people in this room have felt that way, and some people are still searching, and it really helps with all of these things that we're talking about when you have felt that you need to go after something and you actually do it, because not having done your best with your life in whatever way you feel that is, whether it's raising children or whether you were supposed to go to school and didn't. I remember when I was in my psych classes, there was a lady there that was well into her 80s, but she was getting that master's degree, and she was so happy about it, And she died a year or two afterwards, but it didn't matter. She had gotten that accomplished, and she was really proud of it. So even if you do have anxiety or depression, you probably have a lot less if you're doing what you feel you're on planet Earth to do. That's a very satisfying, very fulfilling feeling. And it's usually not easy. I mean, the things that God puts on us to do, we usually take everything we've got to do. I know in my life it does. And I know these guys feel the same way. But it's a feeling of, it's not so much happiness as it is fulfillment and a satiation with, okay, I'm doing everything I can to what I feel like God put me on this world in this world to do. So if you're still feeling that way, like you have other things that you need to be doing, then I love the Nike commercial, just do it. I got through school that way. I was working full time and just taking the classes where I could, and it was so hard. I was always driving down to Cal State San Bernardino and doing all this stuff, and sometimes crying on the way down there, but I would think about that commercial, that just do it. And it really helped me a lot to just get up, just put your clothes on, just get in the car, just do the thing. So that's what I use for a lot of stuff. And I want to talk about mistakes and problems that we've made in the past, because sometimes that stops us and we feel depressed over that we had a drug problem or an alcohol problem or a relationship problem, or we didn't feel like we raised our kids well enough, or on and on and on. I'm sure everybody in this room has something that they feel they could have done better, or didn't do or did badly. But I really think that I wouldn't be who I am if I hadn't made a bazillion mistakes about everything and done all kinds of things wrong. I wouldn't be able to be a therapist because I wouldn't understand how other people feel. And I really began to understand how, I think my favorite scripture in the Bible is Romans 8:28, which talks about God takes, can take all things together for good for those who love God and are to his purpose. And I just use that one all the time for myself because, I'll make a mistake or have a problem, and then later on it blends together in a way that I wouldn't have been able to see. But, I had a lot of problems with different things when I was younger, and all of those have turned out to be a boon to understanding people and understanding what's going on with people. And I want to talk a little bit about addiction. Anybody here ever been addicted to anything? And you don't have to raise your hand. But I want to say that, we're all often addicted to something. I don't care if it's screens or games or food or drugs, alcohol, pornography. I mean, I could go on and on and on. This is the definition I like best about addiction. If you use something which causes a problem in your life, and that could be health, relationships, doesn't matter what it is, and yet you continue to use it. That's simple and to the point. So if you use something, causes a problem in your life, and yet you continue to use it, it might be seen as an addiction. And we can get addicted to anything. That's just kind of human nature, I think. So that's something that I've dealt with in my personal life, and that's actually how I got started working in a treatment center. Is I went through one when in the early 90s, and then I just started volunteering there, and that's where I got my start. But I learned a lot about human nature in there, and I learned a lot about myself. And it was, at the time, a horrible experience, and I thought that I'd sunk to the lowest level I could ever sink to. But once again, God's really used that to put in my tool bag of different things that I learned how to do. And that's also where I met God on my own level. I was in that treatment center, and I'm just going to tell you this story real quick, but You know, I was raised Episcopalian and Catholic. Episcopalian is Catholic light, by the way. And so, but it was a pointed finger kind of lot of that stuff going on in my house with my mom. And so by the time I got to where I was in this treatment center, I didn't know what or who I believed in. I really didn't. And the first step of the 12 steps is that this substance or thing, you know, has causes problems in our life that have become unmanageable. That's what we find out. And the second step is that we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity, but I didn't know if I had one or not. And so this person challenged me to go to my room and ask God to show up in a way that I could understand. And so I did. I don't know if anybody here has ever done that, but I used to run the track every day, and I would get leg aches. And I knew that I needed more potassium, and bananas had potassium, but we only got them about twice a week. So I went down to I did the prayer. I went to my room, did the prayer. I wasn't thinking about the running or my leg or any of that. I just wanted God to show up in a way that I could understand. And I went down to the breakfast room, and there was bananas that day, and I was like, oh, cool. And so the next day I go down there, and there's no bananas in the bowl, but a friend of mine has 2 bananas and gives me one. And so then the next day I go to my counselor's office, and he's got bananas, and he gives me one. And the day after that, my roommate's parents come to visit, and they bring bananas, and they give me one. And every day after that, I got a banana, and it got to be the funniest thing between me and God, because there weren't any bananas, right? And they're still kind of this holy thing to me. So God became personal at that point to me. And I just want to, I know everybody here knows God, because you wouldn't be here if you didn't, but if you're needing to have that extra personal touch, you know, we can always ask for that. We can ask for help. What's that? Ask for a banana? I don't know. That was my thing. I don't know what yours will be. But I just wanted to mention that asking is a very important part of getting help. Either asking a friend or a trusted spiritual advisor, or asking God. And I hesitate to say this. Where's Joyce? I asked her if I could say this or not, so I'll use a different term. But I always tell people, ask stands for, I'll call it ARS Saving Kit. So when you learn to ask, then you're going to save your arse over that, you know, because some kind of help always comes from somewhere. Some kind of help always comes from somewhere when you ask. Anybody here read the Narnia books? I know you have, but Susan's horn, when she blew it, some kind of help would come from somewhere. So if you're in trouble, ask for help. Sometimes we just burden ourselves and we go on trudging along, and we just, you know, fall apart because we don't ever ask for any help. So I just really wanted to mention that. So, So back to the world, the hive, the crazy world that we're in. You know, it's so easy to get sucked into. First of all, there's just entirely too much information. Entirely too much information. You know, when I was a kid, and a lot of you here are my age or so, and there was no cell phones, there was no computers, you know, you played outside till the street lights came on, you drank out of the hose, and, you know, that was it. Yeah, I mean, we had one little black and white in the house, and that was it. But, you know, when you think about everything that's happened, even in our lifetime, it's staggering. It's just staggering. So I just want to remind everybody to take a day where you're going to turn off all the information. Because, okay, an hour. Something. Okay. do what you can to take some time out from your information, is what I'm saying. Some people can take more, some people can't take as much, but I've got horses, so I go down and I do this for about an hour every morning, you know? I shovel all my problems into a wheelbarrow, as it were. And some kind of activity like that, gardening, is a wonderful way to de-stress, because the energy of the earth is really powerful. And when you put your hands into the earth, or you take your shoes and socks off and feel the earth's energy, it really helps to ground us. It helps to remind us what kind of creatures we are and how we were made and how God made this beautiful planet. And we're not, you know, when you're all into information, it's almost like you're floating up here all the time and you're not grounded. And so, you know, you want to bring yourself down and ground into the ground. It's very important. It goes along with breathing, and these kinds of things are going to help calm you down. Okay? Yeah, go ahead.
It was kind of interesting because I was kind of thinking about what happened, and you know, a lot of times with me, I'm an arrogant person, and as soon as you're arrogant, you think that you're capable of solving everything with your intellect.
Right.
But as soon as you get arrogant, you also forget. You also forget about God, and you forgot about asking. You get in your own little cycle, and that cycle causes all kinds of bad things, including everything you talked about. Now, it's interesting that when I brought up that thing, that when I got angry and I tried to create, and I had this monster I wanted to share with other people, I forgot the end, which I wanted to say, which was I should have given it to Christ. But it's interesting that I said that, and then I kind of forgot, and I just ended the story. Then another person talked about a story about, you know, a young lady that wrote her stuff about her daughter, and then later it was found out. But it's interesting, in this group, right after that happened, there were 4 passages of the Bible that people talked about in different places here that said,
Right.
give it to Christ, give it to Christ, give it to Christ.
Right.
And what I wanted to end this with, or my thing with, is that Christ is the only one that's mature enough to handle that. A lot of times when you give it to other people, it can overwhelm them, and it can cause evil, depression, anxiety to foster in them. But if you're mature enough, if you have a relationship with Christ and you can give it to Christ and stop the buck there, he can handle it. But a lot of times when you give it to other people or you try to create horrible things yourself, they either hurt other people's or manifest themselves in other ways. So I just wanted to add that little thing. So thanks.
Thank you. Now, the next one I'm going to tell you is, it works for me every single time, and that is go help somebody else. Because our biggest problem in all of this stuff is me, right? You're thinking about me. I mean, there's a saying in Alcoholics Anonymous, pour me another drink, right? It's because all of these problems are always about, what about me? What about my problem? Oh my gosh, don't you care about my problem? And, you know, I have a problem, and everybody should know about it, or I'm going to think about my problem, and what about my problem? God, what about my problem? I'm going to worry about it. I'm going to tell you about it, but then I'm going to worry about it some more. So when I'm helping somebody else, I completely am not thinking about me. Totally not thinking about myself. It is so great. I can go, you know, to the office with a bunch of problems on my head, and then they're gone when I've been working with somebody. So if you do that, help a family member, do some volunteer work, or whatever way that you can assist and help, that's gonna take you totally out of yourself, and it works 100% of the time. At least for me, it does. Today, after I get finished here, I'm taking a care package, which Linda and Debbie helped me with, down to a friend of mine that's been kicked out of 4 places now, starting in Arrow Bear and then Big Bear, and then, you know, now she's in Fontana, I think, not able to go home yet from the fire. So I'm taking her a goodie bag of lots of stuff down for her, and I can't wait. But, you know, that gets me out of me, and going up and I went up and rescued a couple horses from Big Bear. that totally got me out of me. So, yeah, sometimes it's a big effort to help somebody, but it's, again, so fulfilling, and it feels really good, and you're going to sleep good at night. And I heard somebody say once that a clear conscience is the softest pillow. So, do what you can to help others, and you're going to feel really good about that. And I wanted to read this one. This one helped me get through school, and I read it all the time. And it's just about not giving up. And it's called Press On. Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. About just not giving up on whatever you're doing. Just take one more step. Do one more thing. I watch these guys and how hard they work at the store, and Joyce and Larry work so hard putting everything on here and doing such a beautiful job. And I'm sure a lot of you work very hard at whatever you do. And when we work hard at what we're trying to do, then that's another thing that we feel good about. And, I was going to go back to addiction for a second, because the reason we use something, what do you think that reason is? Or to feel good. It's not rocket science. Most people do whatever their thing is because it feels good. And so being persistent about other things that you should be doing also feels good. And praying and asking God to fill those places that feel empty. That's really all the 12-step program is about, by the way, is giving it to God and having Him lift off the addiction, whatever it is. And that's helping others and asking God to lift it off is really the two main things that any of these 12-step programs teach. So anyway, and music. Wanted to talk about music, because music also it has a place in the brain that is just for music. There's a place in the brain just for music. And it's very difficult to play music, Marianne, and not think about, and be able to think about anything else. Can you, when you're playing the piano, can you think about anything else? No, it's another thing where it absolutely shuts everything off. It's not quite the same as listening. Listening is close, but playing music, it's very absorbing. It takes everything you've got. My dad is going to be 99 years old in November. And he's a pianist, and he's played all his life, and he's one of the most optimistic people I've ever known. But it's because his mind is on music all the time. He's always got some music going through his mind instead of a bunch of problems. So anyway, so I think I've reached my limit, and I just want to see if there's any questions that anybody wants to bring forth or anything we can talk about. Go ahead.
I was just curious if you're familiar with a couple of different names in the psychotherapy field, and one of them is Christian and the other one is a secular, but I think they both get really good results, is Dr. Neil Nedley or Dr. David Burns.
No, I'm afraid not.
No? Dr. Neil Nedley he's well known within our particular denomination, and he learned a lot about mental health in his his practice when he was an internist, I think, and he was finding that a lot of his patients were actually very depressed or had anxiety. A lot of their physical problems were resulting from their mental state.
Absolutely.
And he talks a lot about cognitive behavioral therapy and also chemical balances and helping with nutrition and things of that nature. And then Dr. David Burns deals with cognitive behavioral therapy as well. He's written a couple of books that I'm aware of. One's called Feeling Good, which focuses on depression, and the other one is called When Panic Attacks, which focuses on anxiety. And he's developed a lot of techniques to help people get at the root of the problem that's causing their unhappiness. So it just might be a couple of names you might be interested in looking up and
Very cool.
becoming more familiar with their
Thank you.
their therapies.
I know Joyce wanted me to talk about EMDR, so I'll touch on that for a second. That stands for eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. And it's used a lot with PTSD, with trauma, with people that have been to war, or just any kind of trauma that somebody might have gone through. And the way that it works is, so Bill, if I asked you, how many red shirts do you have in your closet? So when I asked him that, he went with his eyes just a little bit back to look for those shirts in his mind, right? And if you ask somebody a question, sometimes you'll see their eyes roll up and look. If I asked you to look at your bedroom, or something, you would go looking with your eyes. So the eyes are attached to the memory in a way that works for this particular therapy. And what you do is you sit in front of somebody, and like if I was going to be next to Bill here, I would take my two fingers and go back and forth in front of his eyes. And that's the motion of it. But the reason for that is we go back to the most traumatic event that somebody is not getting over because it's stuck. And we take a snapshot of that picture in their mind. They tell me, what does that picture look like? And so when we do this motion, they can't hold on to that picture, but then another one around it will come up. And we do that a series of times. And it's a bit like going through a filing cabinet and at the end of the year and tossing out what you don't want and keeping things that you do want. And the way I can best describe it, the pictures that come up are a bit like being on a train, and there'll be one window after another around an event, but it kind of loosens everything up. And from that trauma event being blazing color and very vivid, it's almost like it drains the color out and it becomes black and white. So it's not that you'll lose the memory, but the extremeness, the vividness, the trauma part of it is taken out. So that's kind of how EMDR works. Okay, anybody else? Okay. Well, I want to, go ahead.
I wonder if you could comment on Jonah in the Bible. Number one, he ran away when God told him to do something. And then when he went to Nineveh, he got mad at God because he had told them that they would be destroyed in 40 days, but they repented. And so God changed his mind. It seems like here was a man that he was using avoidance on the one hand, and then when he did what he thought God was saying, he got mad at God. And have you ever thought about that story, or from a psychological standpoint?
I think God uses all those stories in the Bible to show what humans do. I love the life of King David, for instance. I mean, he goes and has relations with his best friend's woman, and kills this guy and does that thing, and the Bible is full of stories about us, and getting mad at God, and then turning around and repenting, and I think it's just chock full of so many examples of what humans are like and how much God loves us, even no matter what we do. So. Do you want to comment on that story?
Well, I sort of did, but just given what you just said, would you recommend people take time for a daily devotional where they read the stories? The Bible's 95% story anyway.
When I'm working with someone, I almost always ask them to do some kind of a morning devotional, because it starts our day off with right thoughts, good thoughts, and then that carries through, like we were talking about. That momentum keeps going. Absolutely. I always try to find out what somebody's spiritual path is, and then ask them to do a devotional of some kind that helps them get on that path. Yeah. Right, right. Ask God into your life in the morning, and the day is going to go better than if you didn't. So, anybody else? Yep.
Could you comment on just guilt and how deadly it is? You know, I'm thinking that passage in Macbeth where the person always saw the blood and the knife. Can guilt be deadly? And
Wow.
how do you deal with guilt, either what you've done or what you haven't done?
That's a toughie, isn't it? Huh? Well, I mean, the first thing I want to say is thank goodness we have Jesus who forgives us, you know. And we can go to him and ask for forgiveness about anything that I'm aware of. So that would be my first suggestion. And we don't always, sometimes we get guilt mixed up with feeling bad. Guilt should be for doing something immoral or unlawful. I mean, there's categories of what guilt is, and then sometimes we just feel bad, and a lot of us are people pleasers. Any people pleasers in this crowd? Oh, I did something and they didn't like that. Now I'm going to feel bad because they didn't like what I said. They didn't like what I did. And a lot of the time we're assuming that somebody is thinking that. And you know what? We can't climb into their head and know what they're thinking about. So there's a book called The Four Agreements. And it's not Christian, it's Toltec, but I still really like it because it says, don't assume, always do your best, be impeccable with your word, and what is the fourth one? Don't assume, and anyway, can't think of it, but they're great mottos to live by because don't take things personally. That's the fourth one, yeah. Thank you. Don't take things personally. That's really tough. Those last two, I'm pretty sure all of you here, you know, do your best and try to speak the truth. But taking things personally and assuming, oh my gosh, we do that. I do that, you know. And that's where we get in trouble and it turns into guilt. But guilt really can be a killer. You're right, Larry. That's a toughie. But again, we really don't know what somebody else is thinking, and we can go to Jesus and ask for forgiveness. And and then we have to receive it. You know, sometimes we ask for forgiveness, but then we don't receive it. So if I give Jan a gift, but she doesn't take it, who does it stay with? It stays with me, right? So if I give the guilt to Jesus, but I don't really give it to him, then I still have it. So we've got to receive the forgiveness that comes with asking for the forgiveness. Go ahead.
One more quick one. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah. Wait, hold on.
Are there some conditions, maybe with people who maybe they're schizophrenic or bipolar or so forth, that no amount of spiritual counseling is going to help? They just simply need to figure out what's going on and take their prescribed medicine.
There are people
is that a fair thing?
Yeah, that's a very fair question. I have a schizophrenic nephew, and I've had several people in my life that are schizophrenic, and a lot of people don't understand what that means. It's a bit like the radio is always turned on and you cannot turn it off. You cannot. They're usually getting instructions, they're getting wavelengths, they're being told what to do, how to be, how to act. It's exhausting. Most people that are schizophrenics are almost comatose because they're absolutely exhausted and nobody really understands that. So medications for schizophrenics calm down the voices. And in many cases, medications are needed. I am not a doctor, I'm a therapist. I haven't gone for a doctorate yet, I might, but I still wouldn't be a psychiatrist. So there's a psychiatrist that's also an MD, and then a psychologist who's a doctor of psychology, but not a medical doctor, and then a therapist. So there are lots of times when a psychiatrist is needed, and then I work in tandem with them because they give out the meds and I do the hands-on work. So that's how that works. Go ahead.
Wait. Hold on. Could we, wait a minute, wait. We need the mic.
Thank you. A person that loves God
Speak into the mic.
and brings up the past too much.
Put it up to your, yeah.
Too much.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hurtful because you're supposed to leave the past alone. But that person, I don't know for what reason, it just brings it up a little much. And
That's
he
how-
loves God, with all his heart.
Right.
But I've tried to tell that person, maybe you need to get some counseling, but he refuses, so.
That
what can I
sounds like
say?
one of those people we were talking about that if they're in a pattern, they're not going to change.
Exactly.
So you have two choices. You can accept it, or you can change you in some way. You're probably never going to change them.
Mm-hmm.
You can pray for them. You can ask God. You
Oh,
can
yeah.
ask God to help them.
Oh, I do.
Yeah,
I
but then we have to find a new way to deal with the difficulty of that person, by going to the gym, going and doing some of the things that we've been talking about today, so you can get away from it for a while.
He used to go to the gym faithfully, now he doesn't even go, works and comes home with that.
Okay, but he's going to stay the same, and you're the one that's bothered by it. So he's probably not bothered by it.
No.
You're bothered by it. So you're the one that has to do the changing to either accept the situation or let it go.
Yeah, I'm praying about it, and I'm trying to accept it, but.
Well, you can come see me in Lucerne if you need more help. Valley.
Good afternoon. Earlier on, you mentioned turning your wishes and your problems into the Lord early in the morning. Well, it works every time. Throughout the hours of the day, when the day has finally come to an end, you stop and recollect, and then you find out exactly where God intervened
Right.
in your request. The essence of trusting in Him, I ask the question over and over again, what is the size of your faith? Or can I just simplify it and say, what's the size of a mustard seed? And if we realize His companionship by experience, it works every time.
Very, very nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you. With the diagnosis of schizophrenia, would psychotherapy heal them, or they have to be treated also with medication?
It depends on the severity of the schizophrenia. Schizophrenia tends to come on around the age of 17 into the early 20s. And, you know, if we were back a couple hundred years ago in different societies, this might have even been the medicine person, the shaman, or whomever in that society, because sometimes they're the ones that can see through the veils. They see things that we don't. So I often give them that sort of a talk when they come in and I see them. But usually they're going to need some kind of medication to live in this world, this society, like this. So you can think of John the Baptist. He might have had a touch, eating locusts and honey out and seeing what he saw. That's an example of somebody that might have been touched in that way, that lived at that time, that was a prophet. And if you read about the prophets, they were often the different people. They'd be out screaming on the street. They'd be telling you, this is going to happen, and everybody's like, cuckoo. But that was those days schizophrenic. They don't have anywhere to go or practice their, they don't have an outlet for what they can see. And I always believe them. I listen to what they say. And they're working with energies and see things that we don't see. So what does that mean? It means all kinds of things for them, but we don't always know what it is.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I suffered many years from migraine, and that intensified when our daughter decided to get married at 18, and we had all these plans for her college, apartment, car, everything. But she fell in love with this, what at that time we call him bum. Now we know God loves him same as us, but we were not then there. Still, we did not like that idea. It was too early. She decided to do it. I was having headache for 45 days. And it was so hard that I wished to die. I literally prayed, Lord, take me away. I could not accept her decision. It was so painful. Later on in life, I learned to accept everything, but at that time, no, I can't. This can't be my daughter. This can't be. We came to this country, had all these plans, and now she's squandering everything. And then I felt guilty. I've done everything wrong. I wasn't a good mom, and all of these bad things the devil brings to you to feel guilt and all that, remorse. And then Bob comes home and tells me something I never heard. I'm a church person. I read Bible. I don't even know how many times. I never skipped. I study, all of that. Still, my emotions and my pain was so great. And he comes up and says this, why are you killing yourself? God was perfect parent up in heaven. He didn't do anything wrong. And how many of his children rejected him and left? I go, where'd you get this from? I never heard that in any sermon, any book I read. But God gave him that thought and wisdom. I knew that story, but never put together to apply to me. And after that, I got up, I was excited, full of life, learned to live one moment at a time and all of that. And now I'm healthier than when I was 35.
How's your daughter now?
She admitted all. She's now 44. And she said, Mom, you were right. You tried to protect me for all of this. And I went through 2 divorces, 3 children with 2 husbands, and she is having even now hard. She's still paying for all that. I said, I tried to protect you from all of that. And I could not. I could not.
But how do we know that she didn't have to go and learn those lessons in some way?
Yeah, but my big revelation was that God was perfect parent,
Right.
and there is no guarantee. Even if we did everything, none of us did everything perfect, but He did. And look what happened to him. How does he feel?
Right.
And like he opened up, I said, God gave this to you to bring me back. I wanted to die. I really was so depressed. I was so sad.
Right.
I was so much in physical pain. I thought my brain is going to explode. And I wanted just to be out of that pain. And it's amazing what God's wisdom can do to us.
That's why I like that scripture, all things work together for good for those who love God. So. Anybody else? Okay. Oh, Larry?
By the way, I enjoy this kind of discussion, and I appreciate very much your sharing, your thoughts.
Thank you.
But we had a speaker who addressed this subject earlier on Family Life Forum. And his point, and he's counsels religious people down in Loma Linda, and he said there are certain kinds of religion that tend people toward mental illness. Certain concepts that they have about the judgment, about God, about guilt, and in his experience, that it could be a very bad thing if they turn to a certain type of religion that, is not healthy. Have you found that when people come to see you that it's sometimes religious people that maybe with observable patterns that could be pathological?
One of the really strong messages I got from God many years ago was to go study many things so that I could talk to whoever comes in the door and be able to talk their language. And yes, the simple answer is yes, I've seen all kinds of things come in. Santeria is a very, very black kind of religion. It's a kind of a mixture of voodoo and Catholic, and there's a lot of things out there. I've worked with a lot of Wiccans. I've worked with a lot of different people, and so the simple answer is yes. And Catholics can have tons of guilt. They're probably the guiltiest of all. But a lot of different religions damn a person to hell before they give them any suggestions, and that's the easy answer. That's what I see quite often. I always ask a person about their spiritual path and what their history is, because it tells me almost more than anything that I need to know. Well, I'm going to say that that's probably about it. So I really thank all of you for allowing me to speak today, and I want to thank Joyce and Larry for asking me to speak, and it's been a real honor and a privilege. Thank you so much.
I want to thank you all for coming today. It's been a real blessing to have you here. I do want to tell you a little bit about what's coming up in October. We have 2 presentations in October, and I think I have guest speakers all the way up until next June, and a lot of them that are I know who I'm going to contact, but God's just been sending me people that, and that's the best way. I did Family Life Forum in Loma Linda for 3 years, but I did it every week. I had a guest speaker every week, and we did it on Saturday morning. Breakfast was served. We met people sat at round tables, so if there was discussion, we could do roundtable discussions as well. And so anyway, this next month, right now we have 2 presentations. The first one will be on a Thursday, because that's the only day that we could do this during the week. It will be done by Wadia's other son, Georgie's dad, Duraid Semaine. It will be on Thursday, October 10, and I'll just tell you just a little bit about Duraid. Duraid is a Forbes 5-star chef. He's from Jordan. He is driven by a lifelong fascination with flavors and traditions from around the globe. He's dedicated to sharing his love for food with others. And so we'll be meeting from 4 to 6 to try to include some of the people who work. And you're going to be able to eat some really good food. So you know what Wadia's food is like. We're going to learn to make some of the food that she has prepared for us, because her son is an amazing chef. Okay. Yeah.
Back in for 1 second. If anybody is interested in anything further, I left some flyers on the back there, and I didn't get a chance to bring any cards, but if anybody's watching this in the future, the phone number is 760-885-0231. So thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right, and then our next speaker is on October 12, and that's during the 2 o'clock time on Saturday. And her name is Moni Plank. She will tell her story about the potter and the clay. So she'll be actually making pots and then showing you the different stages of pots and how that compares to her experience. She has a heartwarming tale. I interviewed her for over an hour on the phone. Her heartwarming tale is of her deliverance from drugs, alcohol, tobacco, and how God miraculously changed her path from destruction to freedom. She is a very good friend of Carmen's, and she was telling me about the pastor of the church, former pastor, and I've heard about these people. Their names were Larry and Joyce. Pastor Larry, and the wife's name was Joyce. So, yeah, they've already passed away, but I think you will enjoy that. I know some people have heard her presentation and really highly recommended it. I want to thank Erin from the bottom of my heart for coming today. We have just a little token. A little token of our appreciation. We appreciate all of you being here. And I'd like to ask Erin to come up one more time and have the closing prayer.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time together, and we thank you for all of the insights that were brought from everyone and from everywhere. And we ask for your perfect peace to descend on everyone here and to go with us as we go out of here. We thank you for this day, and thank you for your blessings. In Jesus' name, amen.